Welcome, 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 everybody. Are you ready to get Fearless Ears? This is Fearless Ears Friday. This is Ari saying a warm welcome to you. If you're on YouTube or on Facebook, please give me a quick check, a quick thumbs up. Let me know the texts are working. And I'm happy you're here wanting to practice your ears and get Fearless Ears. So Fearless Ears Friday is on, everybody. This is where we do some practical exercises to sharpen your ear training, to sharpen your ears. Ear training is like a muscle. It is something we need to do often. And ideally with a plan, I have an ear training course out. arispaceblock.com/ear training-course is where you find more information. I call it 6 Paths to Fearless Ears because I see ear training as a multi-layered effort. I want to relate it to what you as bass players are doing. It helps you take tunes off the recording. It talks about several different ways to effectively practice your ears. It's an ongoing journey, and I welcome you to today's session. So I hear from Facebook that we're on in live. Hey, Walter, good to see you. Some regulars here, and somebody from YouTube, give me a thumbs up, please, so I know the text is working. So I always like to get a little warm up in with what I call sound classes. There is a big emotional component to ear training, and the sound classes really drive that home. I work with contrast a lot, so whether you've heard this session before or not, I'm starting always from zero. Today we're gonna deal a lot with thirds and sixes. They are the romantic, the pretty sound class, okay? And there's 4 of them. I switched off piano. There's 4 of them. There's a major third, and then there's a minor third. Give me some thumbs up about that level there of the piano place. This should go straight into the stream. So we have a major third, and we have a minor third. Okay, major, minor, thirds. And then we have major, minor, sixes. Major and minor sixes. They sound pretty. That's the stuff that love songs are made of, right? That clues you off when you watch a movie and some of these pretty sounds are stacked on top of each other, maybe, right? You can do a lot with thirds. They're awesome. And sixes, of course. Thirds and sixes are inversions of each other, so they belong together. You can hear that even in the sound class, right? And there's often this cliche that people say, major thirds, oh yeah, they sound happy, and minor thirds sound sad. Well, let's test this. If you hear this back to back, major, minor, I can hear that, right? Major third, minor third. But I can turn that major third into a minor sound in a New York second. Actually, as a bass player, I can do that. Watch. Now, all of a sudden, that major third sounds minor. You hear that? So that's another reason why, I often hear from people, they dutifully do these ear training apps, right? Where they're being told major second, minor second, you're supposed to hear, like often typically done with song beginnings, if you hear that interval, you have to then say which one it is and such. And there's utility in doing those, but oftentimes people get really flummoxed because they do this on the app, and then in the musical situation, they get confused. Well, this is one of those reasons, because the context really defines the sound. So it can make this sound major, or I can make this sound minor, right? It's just the context and what I add on the bottom to it, because this is part of a C. This is a C major third, right? It's a major third, and if I add the A below it, I'm turning this into the upper part of an A minor triad. Now it sounds clearly minor, right? Also interesting to say is that the sound quality of the inversion, you have the happy and sad with the sixes too. The sixes, again, are inversions. That's a theory term. If you don't know what that is, you need this, first of all, my book, Music Theory for the Bass Player, where all of this is explained onto the fretboard, just like bass players need it. But what I was going to say is that sixes that are inversions of thirds, very related to them in sound, you also get the major and minor deal. And now, of course, it's the opposite. It's that the major six sounds kind of sad. And, well, if you hear them back to back, whenever something goes down, right, it always makes it sound like it kind of compresses it and makes it sadder. I can, of course, turn that around too if I come from the top, right? Now this is a minor third, and this is a major third. Now this is sad, happy, right? So it's all of this just to say, if I turn it around a certain way, then it's gonna turn the major and the minor and the happy and the sad on its head. And if you have any questions, by the way, feel free to pop them in the chat. There's quite a bit of delay, so I will keep monitoring. But that's major and minor, and the sound class is romantic, beautiful, tells a story that has something beautiful going on, right? And I'm going to quiz you now, and I want to hear from you. Is this the romantic sound class, yes or no? I'm going to play them 3 times as I always do. This was number 1, this is number 2. And here comes number 3. Is this romantic, yes or no? And if it is not, in fact, the romantic sound class, which it, in fact, is not, it is a tense sound class. What sound class is it? It's the tense sound class. So that's creating tension. This is a major second, and that creates slight tension. So I call this the tense sound class. This, in comparison, just a half step away, would be purdy, right? Purdy. So that's the purdy sound class. And that's the tense sound class. All right, so this was a major second. How about this one? Is this a pretty sound class? Somebody says diminished. So if you have diminished, it's a little bit of a discussion, because you could call the major second a diminished third. Yes, you could do that. But when we say the sound of diminished, that's always something that's usually stacking minor thirds on top. So Adam on YouTube, thank you for your comment, first of all. And I'll talk about diminished in a second, because it's actually a really good thing to talk about. So is this purdy sound class, yes or no? Purdy, yes or no? And if it's purdy, which in fact it is. It is a major third, okay? I was going to ask, is it close together or far apart, right? This is close together pretty. This is far apart pretty, right? Okay, so we have those distinctions. Adam brought up diminished, and I love that in this context, because I told you with thirds you can do a lot of stuff, right? If you just take the major third and the minor third, there are 4 options you get, and that's really interesting. You can have a major. I'm going to play that on the bass. You all see that fretboard here? So I can play, I can play it up here. It'll be a little bit more of a brighter sound, since we are bass players. I'm going to get this down here a little bit so you can see. Okay, so this is a major third played up here on the bass, right? I said we have major thirds and minor thirds. If I take a major third like this and a minor third like this, I get a major triad. Y'all hear that? That's a major triad. It's a major third on the bottom and a minor third on top. And what I think is really, really important is that you understand how these shapes and sounds are made on the fretboard. That really, as a bass player, helps you out hugely. So I have the major third and the minor third that I can distinguish in 4 different ways. I put a major third on the bottom, a minor third on top. I get a major triad, right? If you know those shapes, basses don't sound as much in tune on the second octave as down there. Sorry about that. That's a little pitchy. I need to adjust my riders there. But you have a major third and a minor third, right? What if I turn this around and look at the shape that this makes on the fretboard? Major third with my pinky and my ring finger here, right? That's it's essentially, I call it a 2x1. So it's 1 fret, it's 1 fret over and 1 string over, right? So the formula is a 2x1 essentially. And then the minor third would be 1 fret lower than this. So it's 1 string, 2 frets, right? 1 string, 2 frets. That's a minor third. Now watch this. This is a major third on the bottom and a minor third on top, right? I'm just stacking those 2 shapes. That gives me a major triad. If I turn the order around and I do a minor third on the bottom and a major third on top, then I get, in fact, a minor triad. Now the distance between these 2, the outer rims, so to speak, the 2 ones on the outside, is a 5th. Maybe you've never thought about fingering a 5th that way, but this is a great way to finger the 5th. Essentially, I'm going 1 finger per fret, and my pinky is playing the root, and my first finger is playing the 5th, and it's right there on top. See that? Well, that's a really, really great way of playing a fifth. It's one we usually don't think of. We usually think of this one, right? Or this one when you go down. But major, minor triad, right? Now you could also stack two major triads. What do you get when you do that? Really beautiful sound that's called augmented. This is an augmented triad because now look, the outer rim is no longer making a fifth. It's making an augmented fifth. That's why we call this chord augmented. You see that? If I refinger this, I stack the major third. See the shape? And the shape again. Again, learning music theory as shapes is super, super helpful. I've already said it before, but you really need this, which teaches this whole thing, music theory for the bass player on the fretboard. So this is augmented. Now, Adam was mentioning diminished. Well, if augmented is two major thirds on top of each other, then diminished is going to be two minor thirds on top of each other, right? So that's a bit of a finger bender here because I'm going outside of my one finger per fret shape. So you can probably best finger this if you do this. But that's the shape where I just go one fret to the left, right? So it's a one string up, two frets to the left, one minus two. And then you do the same shape from here all the way to the G string, right? You see that? So that is, in fact, a diminished triad, and it's a bit of an eerie sound, right? That's a bit of an ominous sound. You know, I can even stack one more here on top. I'm going to run out of fingers. I am totally running out of fingers. I can stack another one on top, right? So that's now a truly fully diminished chord. It's a diminished seven because that A up here is a diminished seventh. You could also say it's a major six, but that theoretically would not be really the right way to say it. It's a diminished seven because it's smaller than the seven by a whole step. So that is a fully diminished chord. There's also one that has a diminished triad on the bottom and a minor seven on top. It's half diminished, often called half diminished. And that one sounds like this, okay? If you're totally confused, all I'm doing is I'm stacking shapes on top of each other. It's almost like Sudoku, you know? I have a major third and minor third, and how can I, if I take two of them, well, I can do two minor thirds, again, that's diminished. Two major thirds, again, that's augmented. A minor third and a major third, well, if the minor third's on the bottom, that's a minor triad. If the major third's on the bottom, that's a major triad. Okay? So hopefully that ties some things together for you all. And, you know, when we're talking about diminished, there's another thing I got to tell you, because the bass fretboard is so symmetric. And when you're stacking minor thirds, there's a cool shape that you can do. It works like this. You just start, let's say I'm starting on the A, right? And I'm going up a minor third, and then I'm going up the minor third to the next string. Got the light coming in just so it's hard to see, isn't it? So you go 1, 4, and then you go to that E flat here. That means you have to make your hand a little bit smaller just for a second. I call this the crab because crabs walk sideways, and that is a shape that is very useful for a lot of things on the bass. So I call this the crab because see how my hand walks sideways, and all I'm doing is I'm doing 1, 4, one finger per fret. I make the hand smaller by a half step, going up. Now I make it bigger again, right? Now I'm back to one finger per fret. And then I make it smaller again, bigger again, smaller again, bigger again. It's a great shape. I can blast through it and it sounds great. If you have a fully diminished chord, diminished 7 is what it says, DIM 7, or a little degree sign and number 7, then you have a great sound. Okay, so thirds. There's something else I want to tell you about thirds. One thing that really cracks me up. You know how oftentimes these song beginnings, these you can find lists online. There's utility in all of that stuff. You can find lists online that tell you song beginnings that you can then use to identify intervals, right? If you've seen that. But the one that they use for the minor third, I haven't found one. If you find one that's not actually part of a major triad, then let me know. But one that's often used for the minor third descending, for example, is Hey Jude. Right? But that is really the chord at that moment is C major. So it really, I'm being asked to identify a minor sound, which is supposedly sounding sad. But usually, if you know the song, then you'll hear the C under it, right? Hey Jude, So it always cracks me up because it is truly a part of a major triad. So even though I'm being asked to identify a minor third, I am hearing a major triad. All right, major and minor. When you hear major and minor, you could talk about a scale, right? Major scale or a minor scale. That major I'm talking about when I'm talking about major scales or minor scales, and there's lots of them. There's modes that are major. There are, modes that are minor. There are harmonic and melodic minor scales. But the thing that distinguishes the major scales from the minor scales is the third note. It's the third with the root. So is this a major scale or a minor scale, my friends? I shall play this 3 times. Major scale or a minor? That ought to be quite straightforward. This was a major scale. How about this one? Trying to make it so you can't see. Yeah, YouTube's getting it right. That was a major scale. I know there's a delay. You had it. What's this one, though? Yes, that's a minor scale. You got it, Jesse. And what the deal is, that one was actually not a harmonic minor. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Harmonic minor. Well done, Adam. Yep, that was harmonic minor. You hear that big step in there? There's a reason why that is. And has to do with the leading tone, has to do with harmonic properties. But there are different kinds of minor scales. And this one was, in fact, the harmonic minor scale. So again, it's that third that you hear. What's this one? Sorry. Is that, first of all, a major scale or a minor scale? And did anybody hear what kind of major or minor scale this was? Curious minds want to know. I'll play one more time. I'm improvising a little bit on a tune that is famous for being written in that mode. So it was a minor and it was Dorian. The Dorian sound, guys, is the sound of Irish shanties. It's a little bit sad, but it's got that bright 6, right? That's what's different about Dorian. Right? When you hear a minor scale, you would be used to this. But I'm playing this. So somebody said melodic minor. Let me play melodic minor so we hear it back to back. Melodic minor also has this tone in it. So this is melodic minor. This is Dorian. And this is Aeolian, the regular minor, right? And then I'll also play you a harmonic. So you hear all that's happening in these scales is up on the higher end of things, right? So Julian on YouTube says natural. This is natural. I don't know what you were answering to because of the delay, but this is natural minor, right? That's natural minor. This is Dorian. It sounds like natural minor, but a little brighter on top. Just there's this twinge of happiness, Just a little bit brighter than the natural minor. And both the melodic minor and the harmonic minor, they have that deal that they have a half step to the root. That's why they are there, because we need that leading tone to create certain chords. Okay, so if the theory confuses you or you want to learn this stuff step by step, this book will fix you up. Music Theory for the Bass Player. That's exactly why I wrote it, because I find it so incredibly important to understand some of those basics, you know. What I want to do now is, so we're talking about major. Okay, we talked about major and minor thirds, major and minor sixths. We talked about major and minor scales. Now let's talk about major and minor chords. So when you hear a chord, something like this, is major or minor? What do you think? Just go with your gut. I'm going to play it back to back. So this is version 1. This is version 2. This is version 1. This is version 2. Is this major to minor? Is this minor to major? This is the first one. And is it becoming sadder or is it becoming happier? Okay, I'm going to give it away. This is the major third going to a major triad, going to a minor triad. I can mess with your mind again, right? I can do this, and then I can do, let's see, I can do, this is a major third, a major chord now, right? Major chord. I'm going to do this though. Actually, I'm going to do it on the bass again. This is a major chord, and I'm going to do this now. Now, all of a sudden, this major chord turns into minor. Because if I put the low A under it, and you can hear that a major triad is the upper part of an A minor 7, right? So how we put them in context, what comes before, after, above, and below is really typical stuff, right? That's doable and learnable. So and that's what I want to talk about. So today, since we're doing major and minor scales, we talked a little bit about major and minor chords. We just throw on a backing track and relate this all to some sort of grooving. Let's find a backing track in, let's do Dorian. Let's see what, I'm going to try and remember what I did last time. Let's do Dorian modes. Here we go. And we have Aeolian, Dorian. Here we got a D Dorian scale. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, this is Dorian, guys. And I want you to hear this, what I said earlier, shall we do with the Drunken Sailor, right? It's a minor tonality with that bright 6. And I'm gonna just play you the backing track. I'm going to improvise over it. I love it when you hear D Dorian like this. Oftentimes, people will teach you modes like this, right? There we go. C Ionian, D Dorian. But the problem is, when I just heard C major and then I hear D Dorian right after it, I'm going to still hear that C in my mind so loudly I cannot understand D Dorian as D Dorian. I still hear C major because you just played this for me. And now you're playing D Dorian. That means I'm still hearing that C as the root, and I really can't get any idea of what D Dorian sounds like. In order for you to really hear the sound of the modes, you have to start with the same root. So if I go C Ionian, and then I want to hear the sound of Dorian right after it, I have to play C Dorian right after it, and then C Phrygian, and so forth. Okay, if you go through the modes like that, you can hear the quality of the modes, and then they start making sense. Don't do the C Ionian, D Dorian, E Phrygian thing. Do C Ionian, C Dorian, C Phrygian. And it's, you know, oftentimes I ask students, even if they say they have a theory background, I say, play A flat Ionian, play A flat Dorian for me. They have a really hard time doing that. There are ways to really simplify that. So let me say that it's in my book. The way, I like to, I'm being flippant with some things, but the 7 modes, they're really not that hard because you have 3 major ones, 3 minor ones, and an odd one. The 3 major ones are Ionian, which it's do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. You'll pick that out, no problem. Then you have a Lydian, which is weird on the bottom and regular on top. And you have Mixolydian, which is regular on the bottom and weird on top. I mean, I'm saying this very flippantly, right? But it sounds unusual on top. Okay, that's your Mixolydian. If it sounds unusual on the bottom, that's your Lydian. Want to hear it? This is regular C major, right? This is Lydian. Weird on the bottom. Weird on top is Mixolydian. Right? So far, like a regular major scale, but then it's not this, but this. And this is the root. Right? So that's the sound of C Mixolydian, and I can do the same trick with the minor modes. One that sounds like a regular good old minor. You know that. Okay, and there's one that sounds weird on the bottom, that's Phrygian. Nothing else changes, right? There's just that one note, flat 2. And then, of course, you want to learn in theory what is it that's different, So on Phrygian, it's a regular good old minor scale, but I'm playing a flat 2. Sounds Spanish, eh? And then you have one that's weird on top, and that's Dorian. That's what makes it Dorian. Drunken sailor, right? Not drunken sailor. Drunken sailor. Just that twinge of sunshine that the Irish bring in there. And that would be Dorian. So that's the sound of Dorian. I'm going to improvise a little bit over it for you so that you can clearly enjoy the beauty of Dorian. Let's see what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a groove and fill. So hard enough with more stuff in it. And this exercise that I was just sort of starting with, I call that groove and fill. And any tonality, anything, gosh, I'm jam-packing it today again, huh? Any kind of tonality, any kind of sound that you are learning, don't just do the app and, oh yeah, I can identify Dorian, Phrygian. Take a backing track or even just, record yourself into what's it called? Freeze pedal. Into a freeze pedal, just the root and the fifth, and then improvise over it. Get it under your fingers and hear the sound in isolation. Bathe in it. The exercise I was just doing, I call groove and fill. It's one of my students' favorite exercises, and it's just super helpful. You do 1 bar of groove and 1 bar of fill using the material, right? So groove, I just use the, roots and fifths, and then I just use 4 beats to fill. So groove and fill. Groove, just something, repetitive. And then I fill using the scale. You can explore, let's say I'll explore chords inside. What I just did is I found structures inside Dorian. For example, you can find an E minor chord in it, so I'm going to riff on that. Again, E minor. F major. Sorry. G major's in it too. But I wanted to do F major. Here we go. Groove. And it creates, even though the track is very, very clearly in D minor, right? It creates a mild polytonality. That's pretty, and I go to that F major triad, right? I could also go to the G major triad, not as great, but let's see how it does. So I'm just exploring groove and then feel. Not sure how much that works, but what does work, I think, is using several triads. Let me try that. So I like that. You know, you can use all sorts of triads. You know, you can play the entire thing down. As long as you come back to your groove, you will always be good on that, right? So that's an exercise I highly recommend if you want to get into inside sounds. Use them. My good buddy Magnus is here. Cheers to Sweden. Right on, everybody. I'm going to cut it. And thank you very much for joining. I really appreciate you being here. And as you know, we're doing Fearless Fridays for now. 20 minutes or so of ear training. Please tune in again next week. And if you're interested in my ear training course, the info is here. It's a very deep course. We're still building it out. So right now it's still just $99, which is an incredible steal. So go get it while it's there. And if any of the theory stuff confused you and you want to know more, music theory for the bass player, we'll fix you up. Thanks again, everybody, for joining in. I'm at respaceblog.com, and I wish you all a fantastic weekend.